This episode is brought to you by the Toyota Grand Highlander. Life's journey brings constant change filled with exciting surprises and grand challenges. And with its spaciousness, power, and style, the Toyota Grand Highlander is more than a vehicle. It's your partner in embracing all life throws at you. From the spacious adult-sized third row to seating for up to 8 passengers, the Toyota Grand Highlander is up for every grand challenge. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rebecca Larson. Imagine you wake up one morning to find out that you are being accused of killing your neighbor. Not only that, you did it using witchcraft, and it's also the mid-1500s in England. This is what happened to Agnes Waterhouse in 1566. She was accused of using witchcraft to kill her neighbor, William Fine. She was not a rich woman by any means and was said to have a white cat that she called Sathan. Reports say that Sathan could speak in a low and hollow voice and would do anything for a drop of blood. The Elizabethans lived in a world steeped in magic and beliefs. They believed that there were agents working for the devil and that they were capable of causing more than just harm to someone. They were thought to wield forbidden magic, cursing crops, conjuring storms, and even slipping their skin to take form of animals under the moonlight. Witchcraft was not simply a crime in the minds of the people. It was a pervasive fear that seeped into the inner of their world. It was believed that witches had marks called witches' marks or devil's marks, which were thought to be a physical sign that they had made a pact with the devil. These could be moles, scars, or any unusual growths on the body. In many cases, these marks were discovered by the very accusers who sought to demonize the women. Once a person was suspected of witchcraft, the idea that they could wield power of the devil became an undeniable truth in the eyes of the fearless masses. The year was 1542. And England's lawmakers etched fear into stone. The Witchcraft Act made sorcery not just a sin, but a crime worthy of the noose. Unlike many of their European counterparts, English courts prohibited torture during witch trials, but the weight of accusation alone could crush the spirit. Though this grim decree was lifted after 5 years, it would not stay buried. This is unfortunate for Agnes. In 1562, the law returned with renewed force. But the true turning point came in 1604. With King James I on the throne, a ruler enthralled by demons and the devil whisperers, the law tightened its grip. No longer confined to church courts, witch trials spilled into secular hands, where hearsay and hysteria could sentence a woman to death. Queen Elizabeth I's stance on witchcraft was far more tempered than that of her European counterparts. Elizabeth ruled with a measured hand, perhaps because she knew firsthand how accusations could be weaponized. Her own mother, Anne Boleyn, had been branded a witch, her so-called sixth finger and prominent mole twisted into evidence of diabolical allegiance. Elizabeth did not deny the supernatural entirely. Instead, she turned to it on her own terms. She consulted John Dee, the famed astrologer and alchemist, and found guidance in the stars, blending monarchy and mysticism. Before the shadow of suspicion fell across Europe, the wise women, the so-called white witches, held a sacred place in their communities. These cunning folk, with their herbal remedies and whispered incantations, passed down healing knowledge through generations. They were midwives, herbalists, protectors of the sick and desperate. Theirs was a magic rooted in care, not curses. Clear lines once separated the white from the black, the benevolent from the malevolent. But as the Renaissance dawned and hysteria bloomed, the line blurred. Fear swallowed reason. In the frenzy of the witch hunts, all were cast under the same dark shadow. The accused stood no chance. Once named a witch, they faced a judgment, not of the truth, but of terror. The majority of people who were accused of witchcraft were women, usually poor, single women, who had nobody to protect them. Agnes was a widow. She had no one on her side. During her trial, she confessed to murdering her husband using witchcraft. Her sister Elizabeth and her daughter Joan were also accused of witchcraft too. So in some ways, Agnes wasn't really alone. Joan was barely 18 when the accusation came like a storm. A child still, yet cast as a conjurer of darkness. Their neighbor, young Agnes Brown, only 12, told the court a tale that chilled their blood. That Joan and her mother had summoned a black dog, a beast of shadows, to torment her. The creature, she claimed, was the devil's own, a familiar sent to do their bidding. Agnes Waterhouse told Agnes Brown that she was lying. She didn't even own a dagger. But by then, it didn't matter. Agnes had already admitted to witchcraft. While most tried to escape the noose by pleading not guilty, Agnes did the opposite. She confessed. And she stood by her daughter's side in court, as if to say, "Let it be me instead." Maybe she hoped her guilt would be enough to save Joan. Maybe she believed a mother's sacrifice could outweigh fear and superstition. In the end, it was a silent plea for mercy that may never have been heard. Agnes Waterhouse was hanged on the 29th of July, 1566, the first woman in England executed for witchcraft. Before her death, she asked God for forgiveness. She admitted to sending her cat to harm her neighbor and damage his property. But she added the magic hadn't worked. His faith had protected him, or so they believed. In the end, it wasn't a spell that killed Agnes, it was fear shaped by law. Agnes was among the first of many women that would be accused of witchcraft in history. One of the most famous Renaissance-era witch trials was Ursula Kemp, a woman from Essex accused of witchcraft in 1582. Known locally for her herbal remedies and healing abilities, Ursula was respected and feared. When neighbors fell ill or livestock died after disputes with her, suspicion quickly turned to accusation. A former friend accused her of causing harm through magical means, and Ursula's own young son testified against her, claiming she had familiars, supernatural spirits in the form of animals, that did her bidding. She was tried, found guilty, and hanged. As we've seen today, women have been accused of witchcraft for centuries, often targeted because of their knowledge, power, or simply because they were seen as different. These accusations were more than just a fight for survival. They were a reflection of the deep fears and anxieties of society, one where the line between the supernatural and the everyday was often blurred. From the early days of the Renaissance to the witch hunts of later centuries, countless women suffered at the hands of these false claims. Their stories serve as a reminder of the dangers of scapegoating and the ways in which women, especially those who defy convention, have been oppressed throughout history. Yet, despite the brutal persecution, many of these women remain an enduring symbol of resilience and strength. And that concludes another episode of the Tudors Dynasty podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you love the show and would like to show your support, consider becoming a patron over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Tudors Dynasty. Over there, you'll get commercial-free episodes, early access, and some patron-exclusive content as well. If you would prefer to show your support in another way, head on over to my website, tutorsdynasty.com, and click on the shop to see some of the new merchandise that I have available. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.